What is going on, you guys? Today I'm going to be talking to you about this tariff situation with board games. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and ask me to talk about this, and it's hard to talk about because a lot of it is still just proposed right now, but we're going to talk about what kind of impact this might have. Now, before I jump in, if you are new to this channel, I do want to remind you there's a big giveaway going on right now for the Star Wars Celebration exclusive Darth Maul and Obi-Wan for this Hasbro Black Series. I am going to ship those worldwide, anywhere. Whoever wins, all you have to do to enter to win that is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and talk about this tariff deal and what kind of impact that might have for board games. So there is a proposed tariff right now which should fully take effect on June 24th if it goes through, which is going to levy a 25% import tax on lots of like toys and games, and it's definitely going to hit the board game industry pretty hard, especially for those board game manufacturers. The companies are actually going to have to pay the tax, so it's not going to be like a tax that China pays. It's not going to be a tax that you pay, although you will probably see some costs increase as a result of it. And it covers everything from poker chips to board games to dice to toys. I mean, there's a lot of different things that are listed, but for the board game category, it's worded in a way that it deals with table and parlor games that are played on boards, including boards of special designs. And even though like some of the games that FFG makes, like Legion and Armada and X-Wing, may not technically be considered have been played on a board, there's an awful lot of these that are played on boards, and since there's a play surface for these games and a play area, it looks like almost certainly they're going to fall under this category. But there is still a debate phase where people can argue and try to get this proposal amended, and that is going to be happening earlier in June as well. So there's always this chance that this is going to be amended a little bit and it may change. But what would this mean if a 25% tariff does go into effect? Well, effectively that could mean a 25% increase in prices across the board. I think that's kind of the worst case scenario, and we'll talk about some of the better case scenarios. But worst case scenario, this could mean that the prices just completely go up for everything. Now, we do have a lot of stuff coming out in the third quarter of 2019 that is going to be particularly pricey items. We have the Clone Wars coming out for Star Wars Legion. I mean, that's already a $100 box, so if that were to go up to $125, it's really going to change everything. Plus, I mean, every other expansion that goes along with it. We have Epic Waves for Star Wars X-Wing 2.0, and those ships historically have been, between like $70 and $100. So, again, you're looking at more, items where a 25% increase in price would be tremendous. And of course, last but not least, the long-awaited Super Star Destroyer for Star Wars Armada, which is $200. That's going to bring that up to $250. So, that's of course worst case scenario. So what is more likely? And of course, every other thing, every other expansion too. You feel a 25% increase more on a $200 item, but still on all of your $20 and $30 expansions, over time, that's still going to have a bigger impact on you. It's just probably easier to swallow if it's little bit by little bit. So I feel like this is going to impact local game stores the most, because a manufacturer is definitely going to be hit hard. Like Fantasy Flight, for example, I'll use them. They're the ones that are going to have to pay the fees when they bring the stuff into the country. So then then to ship that stuff out and give it to distributors, they're going to have to increase their prices along the line, or just completely eat all of that with corporate profits. And I'm willing to bet that they can't just take a 25% cut to their profits. So what's likely is they may end up kind of splitting the difference or adjusting the number somewhere in between to try to limit the impact that it'll have across the board. So with that being said, they're going to probably, you're going to see an increased cost at your store at some point if this does go into effect. Whether or not it's going to be a full 25% remains to be seen, and that's where some of this negotiation could take place. And it also is going to be something that is able to be adjusted, because the value of the MSRP is not necessarily the the amount that the 25% is going to be added to. So the way that these tariffs work is it has to do with the declared value, and that is another area of this that allows them to potentially fudge the numbers a little bit, because from what I'm able to gather, a lot of declared values when they're bringing imports in are very different than what the MSRP is, and in many cases much lower than the MSRP. So they may be able to, like, if they declare the SSD is only $100 for import purposes, then that halves the amount of extra tariff that they'll end up having to pay, and then they can adjust the MSRP afterwards, because the MSRP could take into consideration, distributors and things like that. So they're able to do things like that. They're able to try to maybe fudge those numbers. They're also able to go to bat, against this policy in June, in hopes that maybe it either gets adjusted or does change or completely removed altogether. And then there's also the question of how long is this going to stay in effect, because tariffs are meant to be like a short-term corrective measure until maybe some kind of policy gets changed. Now, I'm not going to get political. I'm not going to talk about, any of that stuff here, and I hope you can refrain from political stuff in the comments, because I just don't want us to be fighting with each other. We're all in this together as gamers. So let's just keep, let's look at, just the tax. Let's just look at the numbers from that perspective. I do hope that this doesn't end up going into effect, or if it does, I hope it's very short-lived and used as a temporary corrective measure rather than just a permanent policy. Because if this stays into effect, a lot of this stuff is coming out third quarter. A lot of our most expensive stuff is coming out third quarter, which will start in July. So if this goes into effect on June 24th, if it stays in effect more than a week, it's likely going to start bleeding over into when all of our expensive items are going to be coming out. And not only that, but the effect that this will have on Kickstarter and on the board game industry as a whole, outside of just like Star Wars games, this could really have a big problem. And here's the thing, like, because it's a tax on stuff coming in from China, you might say, well, why don't we just make stuff here? And the problem is that the board game industry doesn't support a volume that's really conducive with making stuff here. So, like, China is specialized in making, like a game that's going to have like a 2,000 copy print run or a 3,000 copy print run, or in relatively smaller numbers. Whereas, if they were going to make it here, we just don't have factories to do, small numbers. It's not cost effective to do that here. And that's what China's very good at. And that's why we do so much stuff over in China, because unless Armada was a household game that everybody in the country was playing, it wouldn't be as cost effective to be making things like that here. So when you and a lot of board games are like that. Look at just about any modern board game. You're not getting a billion copies printed. You're getting a couple of thousand, maybe even tens of thousands. But you're not usually you're just not getting numbers that are that crazy big. And so that's why we do so much stuff in China. And that's why it's going to have such a really big impact on the board game industry. So definitely hoping that this does not go too long, but also, if it goes long, it's going to have a really big impact on because it also affects toys. It's going to have a really big impact on holiday sales, and that is probably, like, I think one of the biggest factors to say, boy, I really hope. I really hope it doesn't, because first off, holiday sales are huge. That's a big part of our economy, everything from November to December. So, but that also means if that's a prediction that it's going to end before the holiday, craze kicks in. Although a lot of people start their holiday shopping, as early as October, sometimes even earlier than that. But if it's not going to run through the holidays, is that all of a sudden now a fear that FFG is going to delay stuff even more so that it gets around the tariffs? Because it would be like if the SSD gets pushed back to like 2020, I think I might actually cry on screen. So let's hope that doesn't happen. And so that's basically that's the situation. What we know right now, there's still hope. It's not June 24th is not here yet. So hopefully, once that day comes, we'll have some better news, or maybe at least some more insight into how long it's going to actually be in effect for. It's supposed to be a short-term thing, but the fear right now is that it'll be left in place as some type of permanent punishment to China. But I'm afraid that it's going to actually be punishing us and the hobby that we love and the industry that we love. Alright guys, that's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell for alerts. And you can check out Crablock.com. You can check out my Discord. You can hop in there and have a discussion. And hopefully I didn't screw this one up too much. I want to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, have a great day.